esteemed chair of the conference, Honorable Srimati Sonia Gandhi, President of the Indian National Congress, Honorable former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, Mr. Anand Sharma, Convener of the Organizing Committee, His Excellency Mr. Hamid Karzai, the former President of Afghanistan, distinguished leaders and personalities on the dais, political leaders and members of Parliament, distinguished friends and participants from several countries of the world, scholars and professionals, delegates, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Namaskar. I am extremely honored to be among such a galaxy of renowned personalities here to take part in the conference organized to celebrate the 125th birth anniversary of one of the most illustrious icons of modern India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Let me first of all extend my sincere thanks to Madam Sonia Gandhi ji, President of the Indian National Congress and the Organizing Committee, for the kind invitation that has enabled me to come here once again. The conference has given me an opportunity to pay my cordial tributes to Panditji and interact with so many old and new friends and share my opinions with such an august gathering. The Indian National Congress is one of the oldest democratic political parties of the world, having a long history of association with India's independence struggle with stalwarts like Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, all having served as INC President among so many others playing a pivotal role. It also served as a vanguard of decolonization and freedom and rights of the oppressed people of the world. It is a matter of extreme satisfaction that quite a number of our prominent political leaders from Nepal, including B.P. Koirala and Manmohan Adhikari, who took part in the Quit India movement with the belief that an early Indian independence would hasten the eradication of Rana autocracy in Nepal to allow our people to enjoy full democratic freedom and human rights. It is in this background that I deem it a matter of privilege to participate from Nepal in this international conference. Nepal and India enjoy excellent relations, and these ties of friendship and cooperation date back to history, and India has extended generous assistance to us. As a close neighbor and friend, having excellent political, economic, social and cultural relations for centuries, Nepal is proud of India's emergence as a major economic and technological powerhouse during the last 67 years of its independence. Distinguished friends, Pandit Nehru was an epitome of charisma, versatility, knowledge and genius of a very high order. As one of the brilliant students of his time, he was one of the best assets of India at the time of independence, as he was a great visionary and a creative leader looking both domestic and world affairs from a wider and broader perspective. He was a prolific writer with several standard publications to his credit, which portray in an extensive manner the extent of his intellectual depth and versatile approach. Many of his writings were from the period of his imprisonment that lasted over 15 years but continued almost till his last days of his premiership. Last but not least, the assumption of his most prominent role as India's first Prime Minister with most memorable and landmark Trust with the Destiny speech of the midnight was the apogee of his political career. Panditji's stewardship of the country continued for almost 18 years if we also count his role as the Vice President of the provisional government that presided over the rocky and even chaotic transition from colonial disengagement to full independence. A champion of children as the future leaders of the country. Pandit's birthday is celebrated as Bal Divas, Children's Day, as he was fondly called Chacha Nehru. Nehru's major contribution to the political stability and succession from colonialism to independence that ensured India's orderly progress and development with greater emphasis on democracy, inclusion and empowerment is also borne by his central role in promulgating the Constitution almost 65 years ago. As he was quite conscious that political development alone cannot sustain the fabric of democratic order, he took a momentous step to establish Planning Commission to take the country on a planned course of social and economic development to empower the masses, particularly the downtrodden and backward communities. In fact, this decision was a continuation of the fundamental rights and economic policy drafted by Nehru during 1929 to 1931 and ratified by the IICC session and establishment of National Planning Commission by INC just before the Second World War. His critical contribution to the country were reciprocated by faith and confidence reposed by the people who elected his party to power to ensure his continuance as the first and so far the longest Prime Minister of the country during the first three successive general elections to the Lok Sabha in 1952, 1957 and 1962. His emphasis on the empowerment of socially and politically deprived classes of people and balanced and sustained development of the country led to various measures ranging from the unification of the Indian princely states and reorganization of states to full empowerment of the rural people with suitable incentives. While his total sway over the population could afford him to play the role of what can be called a democratic dictator, as in many countries that had gained independence from colonialism, Pandit Nehru was a democratic to the core, believing in collective leadership and greater participation in terms of nation building. While Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated in less than 6 months and his senior colleague Sardar Patel passed away within the first few years of India's independence, he continued to rely on the advice and support with colleagues at the center and states both at party and government levels. Pandit Nehru was greatly influenced by socialist ideology and even Marxism, but was completely flexible in his approach and did not suffer from any dogma, as is shown by his rightful emphasis on the commensurate role of the public and private sectors in terms of advancing India's progress. Being instrumental in the establishment of elite institutions related to medical science, engineering, technology, research, management and social science, he visualized the idea of India as a pool of high-skilled manpower that could not only develop the country but also contribute to global prosperity. He once described massive Bhakra Nagal project as the new temple of resurgent India and a symbol of India's progress, while at the same time emphasizing on the need for comprehensive land reforms to empower the toiling masses for upholding their social and economic status and for augmenting food production in the country. Dear friends and participants, Pandit Nehru was the architect of India's foreign policy. In a way, he was the personification of independent India's foreign policy until his sad demise in 1964, and the originator and brain behind the foreign policy of INC for 2 decades prior to the country's independence. Back in 1927, he made a rather casual note of over 7,000 words spread over 27 pages. This masterly document in the form of manuscript entitled A Foreign Policy for India brilliantly outlines the basic contours of future India's foreign policy that combines forces of continuity and change. So total was his sway and expertise over the domain of India's foreign policy that even Mahatma Gandhi once told in 1942 that in terms of foreign policy, Panditji was my guru. Before India's formal emergence as an independent country, India was at best an anomalous colony with membership of international organizations and full-fledged participation in international conferences, even with well above a dozen quasi-diplomatic missions under his supervision. Some months prior to independence in April 1947, the Indian Council for World Affairs, that was established in 1943 by a group of intellectuals including Pandit Nehru, hosted an Asian Relations Conference in Purana Killa of New Delhi, inviting countries of Asia and Africa and representatives of international and regional organizations. While Panditji was the moving spirit behind the conference that sought to chart out a new course for countries of Asia and Africa, the conference was inaugurated by Mahatma Gandhi. And the Nightingale of India, Sarojini Naidu, who had the honor to succeed Mahatma Gandhi as INC President in 1925, was in the chair. The first Asian Relations Conference is appropriately taken as the precursor and forerunner of the non-aligned movement, possibly the largest association of developing countries that had Nehru as one of the central figures in its inception. At a time when the world was divided into mutually conflicting power blocks with Cold War at its height, he took a principled position to stay away from the rival camps, just while judging every international issues on the basis of merit and national interest by championing the cause of Panchashil and non-aligned movement. One of the greatest contributions of NAM is gradual and faster decolonization in various parts of the world. Distinguished participants, as Nehru was a strong advocate of strengthening India's ties with neighbors, a brief description of Nepal-India relations may be relevant. As already stated, our two countries enjoy best of relations on political, social, economic and cultural terms. Pandit Nehru visited Nepal 2 times and was instrumental in helping us to have a smooth transition from a century-old Rana family autocracy to democracy in 1951. He extended full support to Nepal for its social and economic advancement, and our people take him as one of the most important friends of Nepal. While conscious of the policy of non-interference in other countries' internal affairs, he did not hesitate to strongly attack the step taken by the king in 1960 to dissolve the elected parliament and government led by B.P. Koirala, the first elected Prime Minister of Nepal, as a setback to democracy. We continue to receive the support and cooperation of the friendly people and government of India in our present task of taking the peace process that started with a comprehensive peace accord and 12-point agreement to its logical conclusion and promulgation of a democratic constitution at an early date. As Nepal is on the threshold of new era, for bringing about radical socio-economic transformation, we welcome greater private investments from India for our mutual benefit and for acceleration of our policy of bringing qualitative improvements in the standards of our people. Optimum and ecologically sustainable utilization of Nepal's vast water resources, tourism development, laying of infrastructures, modernization of agriculture, and commercial development of Nepal's herbal and other resources may be some of the promising areas for mutually advantageous cooperation between Nepal and India in the coming years. With these words, I once again extend my profound tribute to the political and intellectual colossus so as aptly exemplified by Nehru, and wish the conference all success. Thank you very much.